So, continuing in the theme of the afternoon about a fairer life for European citizens, we're now going into the research and innovation contribution towards reconstruction. And it's my pleasure to invite the moderator of the next session to come and join us, Signe Razzo. Signe.
Good afternoon to all participants and speakers. Welcome to this special session on Ukraine, which I'm glad to moderate. Now, before inviting to the stage the speakers, let me say just a few words by means of introduction. Well, we know that 2 years have passed since Russia started its unjustified and unprovoked war of aggression against Ukraine. Since then, the war has inflicted severe damage upon Ukraine's research and innovation system. At least 35% of research infrastructure has been either damaged or destroyed. Furthermore, the conflict has forced Ukrainian scientists to disperse, with many relocating within the country or abroad, deteriorating Ukraine's intellectual assets. Despite these obstacles, Ukraine's research and innovation ecosystem has proven to be incredibly resilient. And this is exemplified by its participation in Horizon Europe, as Ukraine is also associated to our research and innovation program. And just one fact, despite the war, in 2023, Ukrainians signed 85 grants already under Horizon Europe. And for comparison, in the best performing year of Horizon 2020, before the war, Ukraine signed 49 grants. With this enormous potential, it is imperative that we mobilize the power of research and innovation to support Ukraine's reconstruction efforts. And this was also recognized by the G7 countries in the Sendai communique of last year, also which followed the G7 Hiroshima summit. Now, I'd just like to mention a few of the support measures that the EU has given to Ukraine in research and innovation area. First, I'd like to mention our prestigious Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions, which are supporting displaced Ukrainian researchers. With a budget of 25 million euros, it has supported 125 researchers from Ukraine, based in the EU and countries associated to Horizon Europe, with the aim of returning to their country once conditions allow, thus also counteracting brain drain. In similar vein, the Horizon project responds to the dire situation of the research infrastructure in Ukraine. Namely, this project offers remote fellowships to access European research infrastructure and allows Ukrainian researchers to continue their research despite the ongoing war. Moreover, our flagship support measure, Horizon Europe Office, which we opened at the end of last year in Kiev, is a key player also for Ukraine, because it will provide training, communication opportunities. It also gives policy advice on Ukraine's integration into the European research area. And last but not least, the EIC for Ukraine action will support at least 200 Ukrainian deep tech startups with grants and technical assistance. Now, as we convene here today to discuss our support to Ukraine, our support to Ukraine's reconstructions, this is essential to recognize the urgent needs which are challenging Ukraine's ecosystem of research and innovation. And this is something that we will be able to discuss in this panel. And with that, I'd like to now ask for stage all the speakers in this session, starting with Mr. Serhii Tereshko, Deputy Head of Mission of Ukraine to the European Union. Please join me.
Hello.
Hello. Now we have a member of the European Parliament, Ms. Viola von Kramon-Taubadel, who will join us remotely, I believe. Can I see her on the screen? Yes. Hello, Ms. Viola von Kramon.
Hello.
Do I understand correctly that you are in Kiev now?
No, we will go on Sunday to be prepared.
Okay. Okay, welcome to join us in this session. Now I'd like to invite on stage also Ms. Eva Koczynska-Lange, who's Director of the National Center for Research and Development of Poland, Office of Poland here in Brussels. Please. The next speaker I'd like now to invite here is Dr. Vaughan Turekyan, Executive Director of the National Academy's Policy and Global Affairs Division of the Department of State of the US, who's also personally here with us today.
Thank you so much.
And now it's my pleasure to welcome also the last speaker on the panel who's joined us here, Mr. Kyosuke Inada, Chief Representative for Europe from the Japan International Cooperation Agency. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as you see, we have a really international panel of speakers who will all speak in support of Ukraine and will describe what their respective countries and institutions will do for this objective. But my first question goes to Deputy Ambassador Mr. Serhii Tereshko. I'd like to ask you, why do we need to discuss Ukrainian reconstruction now? We know that we are still in the midst of this terrible war, but we are starting to discuss now. Can you give us the reasons for that, please?
Good afternoon. Hello. Thank you for this question, and thank you, first of all, for bringing Ukraine and support of Ukraine in the area of research and innovation on the top of discussion of these days. So why we have to discuss reconstruction of Ukraine already now? I would stop on few points, few factors why. So first of all, the war is ongoing, and if we talk about research and innovation, it is unfortunately for Ukraine, in fact, probably the first modern war which Ukraine is in, being attacked by Russia. And this war requires from Ukraine permanent and daily development of their defensive and resilience capability. I'm not only talking about the hard security, like weaponry, but also initiatives in the sphere of cybersecurity, initiatives in the sphere of health security, initiatives in the sphere of digital energy security. So in fact, every sector of key sectors of Ukrainian life now require new solution which can cope with a real modern war, with Russia is imposing on Ukraine. Second element is economy. So Ukraine, despite the war, is a functioning economy, and despite the war, last year Ukrainian economy shown the growth. We didn't stop developing our country, and that is why the economy also require boost in reconstruction of the facilities which are destroyed, but also in building new facilities for economy to be running, and for infrastructure to be effectively present in the country at war to allow this economy be functional. So that is why for us reconstruction is also invitation for investments into Ukraine, because we are confident that war of Russia in Ukraine should not be an embargo for investments in Ukraine. And third element I would stop is our European integration process, because along with the war, along with fighting back Russian aggression, we are entering the European Union, and we don't want to pause the accession process into the EU because of war. We are doing it right now with support of the European Union, with support of the member state, with support of other international partners. And this also requires reconstruction of Ukraine in approach, which we call Build Back Better, that we develop and rebuild Ukraine, reconstruct Ukraine according to the not even current European standards, but according to the future European standards, which European Union itself is setting for itself, like digital, green, sustainable reconstruction, and all these factors are require investments in reconstruction and research and development approach already today.
Many thanks, Mr. Tereshko, of outlining well the needs and really all the reasons why we need to do that. And it's incredible how really Ukraine manages to function in all aspects, and actually has upgraded, say, its digital capabilities during these years of war. I think you already went a bit into the EU integration part, but with that, I think it's now an excellent occasion to pass the floor to Ms. van Kramen. Now, what role, in your view, the EU should have in Ukraine's reconstruction, and why should research and innovation be part of its support?
Yeah, thank you, Signe. Thanks for giving me the floor, and thanks for inviting me. First of all, it is without any question, and not just because Washington is so slow with the next financial package, but also because we are direct neighbors, the EU has a leading role in this process. And of course, everyone is very much aware that Ukraine, as a candidate country, as a future EU member, we have to be engaged, and engaged in a much more serious way than we have been in the past. So it is in our vital security interest, and it is of vital security significance for us in the European Union to start with this reconstruction process now, and not just to focus on the military aspects. This is exactly what Mr. Tereshko has mentioned. And if you look at the students, the teachers, people who had to leave the country, you see that they're much more advanced when it comes to science. Many of the students who are, I don't know, 8th or 10th graders in Ukraine, they end up to be in a 11th or 12th grade in Germany. So I think it is good to focus on the strength of Ukraine. And Ukraine is a very science-based society, a very science-based economy. And as the gentleman has said, I mean, the future will be green and sustainable. For this, we need experts. We need people who are educated and trained and skilled, especially in technological subjects. And here, I think we can learn a lot from Ukraine. So not just to say what the EU has to do for Ukraine, but also how we can benefit from the structures in Ukraine. I think it is important to emphasize. We have just voted on a 50 billion support package, the so-called Ukraine facility. This is mainly budget support. Yes, we have called it reconstruction, but to be honest, as long as the war is going on, as long as we need to support Ukraine on its existence, there will be not so much money, there will be not so many funds left for all the projects which we would like to develop after the war. But absolutely right. I think already now we start to build the networks. We have researchers in the member states. We have researchers invited on the European level. I just had a representative here from a medical school who has a branch in Poland and who starts to develop the new norms and standards for bridging this to and bringing this to Kiev. So a lot of things are going on already at this very moment. And of course, all this is being facilitated by the expert of the EU Commission. And on top, we have twin projects. So we try to start with a capacity building on the administrative side to include the ministerial and the institutional structures as soon as possible into the EU accession. Sorry for me, I hear my echo all the time, and that is sometimes a little bit difficult to speak if you hear your echo at the same time. Sorry for mumbling sometimes a bit. Oh, now it's better. Now it's stopped. Thank you.
Many thanks, Viola, for all that, and we all heard you very well here on the venue, and many thanks for outlining, well, not just the accession path for Ukraine and how our support can be relevant there, but also really the need to reconstruct the country, the nation, as a green and digital society, that there are already a lot of talent in Ukraine on which you can support, and also excellent research and innovation potential there. Now, with that, let me now continue with Eva Koczynska-Lange, who comes from Poland. And we know that Poland has been one of these member states who's actually, I think, being the greatest supporter, well, from defense up to the research and innovation to all areas, also welcoming the refugees as well as researchers from Ukraine. But now, can you tell us how can a member state and the EU complement each other in supporting Ukraine's reconstruction, and particularly the research and innovation ecosystem? Please, over to you, Eva.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation as well. Let me start by a bit of a personal note. I have quite some friends in Ukraine. I have some Ukrainian friends in Poland. As you rightly mentioned, the group even grew. And also here. And they always say that they are very much appreciating, of course, the whole support that it's being already given in the view of reconstructing Ukraine. But at the same time, they call for help immediately to just win the war. So we also have to always remember about that it's reconstructing. Sometimes maybe it's even more easy to discuss than really supporting the fight. And indeed, the RNA sector was quite hit by the Russia's aggressions, and it's not easy to rebuild it overnight. But the whole support that we are giving as member states separately or together should be based on a win-win principle. We have to remember that we have to take into account interests of both sides or all parties involved, and indeed the help recently is switched from helping refugees to helping Ukrainian researchers in Ukraine. We have learned also that in order to continue providing the appropriate support, we have to be flexible and we have to adapt to what's happening on one hand in Ukraine, but on the other hand also to what's happening in Europe and globally. And we, of course, need to develop cooperation with the Ukrainian research community as close as possible in order to increase Ukrainian participation in RNI programs like Horizon Europe, but in general in European research networks. And we have to do it in dialogue with Ukrainian authorities like Ministry of Science and Education and National Research Foundation of Ukraine, but also speaking directly to researchers, entrepreneurs, institutions that are involved in this ecosystem to know what they really need, to be sure that we, with our ideas of help, are really meeting the expectations and the needs. It's definitely necessary to build also a strong expert base to support RNA community in Ukraine and to really maintain the participation of Ukraine on the European level. And yeah, the key question here is, of course, the budget, because we also need to find, of course, financial means to support this cooperation in order for them to gain also some experience and some better connections, and also to prepare for the future, for coming back to Ukraine or for functioning in the normal circumstances in Ukraine. And Europe is, of course, providing a lot of support. Apart from that, you mentioned also this Era for Ukraine portal still active with a lot of actions. We need to continue providing this support. And we have to remember that supporting the human capital is crucial here for the future Ukraine reconstruction. I would like to mention very briefly some conclusions we had of our discussions in Poland, how to help. Of course, we need to support the reconstructions of infrastructure. We need to as well help together with the European Horizon Europe office in Kiev, support the submission of proposals and the whole development of contacts networks, and also involvement of Ukrainian universities and European university alliances. And also we can, I think, offer something maybe more simple, like some short visits, online courses, exchanges to include researchers in Ukraine into running projects that we have in Europe, and to work on them on a daily basis, and also not to remember to keep their affiliation with Ukrainian institutions as it comes to publication. That's very, very important. And last but not least, also try to use our infrastructure and our knowledge to support really the research happening in Ukraine. And to finish, just one example, I know it's a tough time. We have currently running a cooperation program together with US, by the way, and Ukraine and Poland and the Baltics. And this is exactly about that, expanding projects funded by National Science Foundation with teams coming from Poland, let's say, Ukraine, working together on some new endeavors and yeah, kind of facilitating what I just earlier mentioned. Thank you very much.
Well, many thanks, Eva, for outlining what Poland is already doing in support of Ukraine. Now there is a possibility to have a transatlantic point of view. Just before that, I'd like to mention that I was in Washington, D.C. last week, where we had the joint committee meeting with the State Department under our bilateral agreement on collaboration of research and technology between the EU and US. And one of the topics we also discussed was support to Ukraine. We also know that there was a very strong reference in the G7 Sendai communique. The G7 ministerial is also upcoming. Can you now, Dr. Turekhan, explain to us how you work together with international partners in support of Ukraine.
Well, absolutely, and thank you so much for having me here. It is a real pleasure. I always say that I'm not representing the US government, I'm representing an organization that represents the scientific community oftentimes in the US, the National Academy of Sciences. That said, I did once work in the US government, so have had very good conversations with colleagues in the State Department and elsewhere. I know, talking to my colleagues in government, they take great pride in the tremendous amount of cooperation that Europe and the United States have had in helping support, and Japan and others around the world that have really come to help Ukraine in the earliest days by mobilizing not just lots of money, and the US did and hopefully will continue to mobilize billions and billions of dollars, but critically to work with our allies and our like-minded partners to also think about what we talked about here. How do we make sure that the Ukrainian talent, the Ukrainian partners, people that are going to be so central to not just Ukraine's future, but the world's future, how do they maintain that type of connection to the science and innovation that's going to be critical? So we at the National Academy of Sciences, very early on with our colleagues from Poland, supported hundreds of researchers that came out of Ukraine to Poland. We are currently supporting many more. We are working, as David mentioned, with colleagues throughout the Baltics and in Poland and in Ukraine to support researchers that are part of National Science Foundation programs and others. But over the long term, we're going to need to speak with one voice as a science community, as people that care about science, but more importantly, people that care about Ukraine, to demonstrate that the science is going to be central to innovation. Innovation is going to be central not just to the economy, but the national security of a country. And we've seen that play out over and over again. So I just came from Zurich, where we had a conversation with Silicon Valley entrepreneurs and others to talk about the role of science and innovation in the long-term rebuild of Ukraine. And we know this is a conversation that's going to continue, and we look forward to it.
Well, many thanks, Dr. von Tureikain, for your perspective, and also many thanks for highlighting really the contribution that innovation can bring, not just for the economy, but also for the security aspect. And now the last speaker in this session, Kyosuke Inada, representing Japan International Cooperation Agency. I already referred to the Sendai communique, and I think it was not just a coincidence that the Research and Innovation Ministers meeting last year was namely in Sendai. Perhaps you can explain to us how research and innovation has been used to rebuild a society, and how your experience can potentially also be used for the reconstruction of Ukraine. Please, over to you.
First of all, thank you very much for inviting us to this event. And I have three key messages today. One is that Japan is a long-standing partner of Ukraine, and we will continue to be so. That's the most important message I have for you today. And the second and third messages are examples of our assistance to Ukraine using our innovative technologies. The first one is our landmine clearance technology, which we have developed with a university called Tohoku University, who has generated several Nobel laureates, and also co-working with Cambodia when they were in difficult times several decades ago. And we're now training Ukrainian experts in Poland as a token of our international contribution based on those technologies. And a third and last message is that another important innovation and technologies we are trying to communicate to our Ukrainian counterpart is our use of turning debris or post-disaster waste into concrete materials, construction materials, so that they can clear the waste and also to utilize it into our economic product. So those are the three messages, and the remaining time I just wanted to focus that we had an event last month in Tokyo for supporting Ukraine's economic reconstruction. And there our Prime Minister, Mr. Kishida, focused that we need to focus on knowledge and technology in addition to partnership and inclusiveness. And those will be the 3 key words of Japanese assistance to Ukraine. And in doing so, we intend to partner with the private sector a lot. And that is consistent with the G7 Science and Research Ministers Communique, which took place in, I think, in Tokyo, Sendai, last May 12th to 14th. And our device for landmine clearance, it's a very advanced technology, again, developed with one of the university in Tokyo. And we intend to continue our training sessions for the Ukrainian counterparts, because it's a very urgent matter for Ukraine, not just to rebuild the country, but also currently even during the war. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Inada, many thanks for highlighting already the several links and support measures that Japan is giving to Ukraine. And thanks as well, as I've seen already a lot happening on this, the between international partners, the EU, its member states, well, mentioned Poland, the Baltic countries, coming myself from Estonia, and Estonia is certainly one of also the great supporters of Ukraine in all aspects. I'm very pleased to hear about that. Also the collaborations between the US as well as Japan, which are already ongoing. So I think we can really conclude this session in a positive mode, which on the one hand is difficult because we know that this bloody war is still ongoing. And at the moment, we really need to mobilize all our support so that Ukraine can win that war.
Yeah.
But then, in a longer perspective, in the perspective that we are ready, as the EU, with all its international partners, the multilateral organizations as well, that we are then ready to continue the support of Ukraine to rebuild its society as the modern, green, digital society, and this cannot happen without the essential contribution of research and innovation. So let's get up to that, and many, many thanks. Give a big applause to all our speakers of this session, and many thanks of all of you of joining us this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you, Signe, and thank you, panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have a very quick break of about 4 minutes until we go into our next session here, which is Research Careers. Going to be a really interesting session, which will start in 4 minutes' time here back in the plenary. Thank you very much.